Okay, so over the last 24 hours, about 500 Egyptians have been killed in this mass killing by the American-backed, the American-funded Egyptian military, and this is a foreign policy disaster, and it's going to be a disaster for us, the American people, perhaps in very tangible and ugly ways that I'll get to at the end. But this is very clearly another sad chapter in the history of American foreign policy, because the Muslim Brotherhood, warts and all, won the elections democratically in Egypt, first the parliamentary elections and then the presidential elections. They played by the rules. They played by the Western game. One of the things that the U.S. is telling people is that they should not resort to violence in order to solve their political differences, that they should engage the political arena, participatory politics, etc. That's what the Muslim Brotherhood did. We can agree or disagree on their politics, and certainly I disagree with their politics, but they did it the quote-unquote right way. They tried to achieve power peacefully and democratically. Well, about 11 months later, they have been forcibly removed from office by the Egyptian military. And that is clearly anti-democratic. That is not the way you solve problems in a democracy. If somebody who you disagree with gains power, then what you do is you try to muster a coalition to oppose that group. And that's what the people could have done and should have done instead of resorting to violence. Now, the lesson is, whenever you disagree with someone, since he took me out using the military, then I'm going to do it next time violently as well. And that's the lesson that's being taught. By resorting to violence here, especially Islamic fundamentalists, they're going to say, wait a minute, should we do it the way that the Muslim Brotherhood did it and do it peacefully and then have the election overturned and have our members slaughtered? And now that we're out in the open, everybody can see us and they can jail our leaders like they've done in Egypt? Or are we going to resort to violence and do things secretly like Al-Qaeda? What do you think they're going to choose now? They're probably going to choose the ugly path. And that means more terrorism against us in the United States, because those weapons being used by the Egyptian military were made in the U.S., were funded by the U.S. And so 4, 5, 6 years later, when the relatives of some of these people that were killed today come back and attack American interests and American civilians, you know, people here are going to say, oh, look at those evil Muslims, but they're not going to put it into the context of our supporting this horrible violence that's going on in Egypt. Supporting indirectly. Maybe you guys disagree, and I'll welcome your comments below, but that's how I read the situation. We fund the Egyptian military. I think we've given them the green light to do this slaughter. Now, a couple of interesting things. You know, Hillary Clinton very famously said that the military is helping to restore democracy. We hear that a lot. The military is trying to get Egypt back into a democratic path. What nonsense. What the military in Egypt is interested in, I think, this is the way I read it, is they want to restore their power. There was a kleptocracy in Egypt that was robbing the people blind. The Egyptian military could function with virtual impunity. They dominated the society. It was a virtual military dictatorship for 30 years, with Hosni Mubarak being the facade for the military. The military was very much in control, and they're trying to get that power back. They're not trying to get democracy back. They're trying to get their power back. And furthermore, it's not just that they hate the Muslim Brotherhood. It's that they want their power. It's just that the way that they're able to justify their actions to themselves, to their population, and to the world is to say, oh, we're combating terrorism. We're combating Islamic extremists. But their real motivation is to gain their undemocratic power and to suppress the people. And for the liberals in Egypt that are supporting this because they hate the Muslim Brotherhood, first of all, there's plenty to hate the Muslim Brotherhood about. Don't get me wrong, and you should oppose them. But by supporting this military dictatorship, guess what? The military is going to point the guns at you next. After they get rid of the Muslim Brotherhood, they're going to come after all of the Arab Spring. They're going to come after all the liberals to try to restore their power. You think that they want democracy? That's not how this military works. So this is a lose-lose situation all over. It's a lose situation for the Egyptian people, because democracy is a system where even if the people who you dislike gain power, you solve things democratically. That's number one. And number two, it's a lose for the American people, because when we're going to suffer the blowback from this, you know? And I'll let you go. Take care.